Yo, so a lot of you have reached out about the dialogue component's quest and condition system, specifically for things like displaying dialogue features using other assets or using properties of other assets with the dialogue component. In this video, I'll show you how you can display properties of the dialogue component using the Pro HUD V2 asset, and I'll also show you how to use the gold from another asset, the Open World RPG Toolkit. Okay, so let's start by using another asset to display the properties of the dialogue component. If you're using another quest system or another HUD asset, these are basically the exact same steps that you would follow. So I'm working in a clean version, and I'll start with showing you how you can use this with the Pro HUD V2. We're going to accept the quest from this NPC who asks us to search for a scroll, and in return they're going to give us 10 gold. Quick setup, I've added the cardinal direction to my world and set the Pro HUD as the HUD class. And now I'm ready to start working with it. From here, I'm going to open up the quest NPC and open up the dialogue branches. Here we can see that when the player accepts the quest, the branch is set to 2, and then the NPC describes the quest. Now, I'm using rich text in my system, so you can't use that text to display, otherwise the decorators will show up. Lucky for us, I've already added a description field in the extra settings dropdown where I can type a neat description. So within this NPC's blueprint, I've already set up the binding so that each time a new dialogue branch is set, this event fires. Out of the false node from here, we can check if the branch is equal to 2 because that's the acceptance branch. And here we'll get the HUD manager create update notification. If we run this as is, it'll work, but the notification is blank, and when we end it, we're actually going to get an error message. That's because this function requires some things to be filled out. Let's right click, break the struct, out of append, let's make an array, and we're done with this. Now we need to get the description that we typed out and feed that into this HUD system. So I'll get the dialogue component, get branch, break it, find map, enter 2 for our acceptance branch, break the struct, and drag in our description to the info. If we test it, when we accept the quest, we can see that our description is fed into this other asset's HUD system. One quick tip for you, right now, this binding event is set up to only fire events if branch 4 and 2 are detected. And currently, it'll trickle down whenever we are hitting false for each one. This is a pretty ugly setup, but this was made for the specific purpose of the demo. To make this neater, what you could do is instead put a switch out of start and add a pin for each branch name that you have. And it's going to be much cleaner and organized instead of having to run off of each false node. But yeah, that's pretty much how you can display the properties of the dialogue system using other assets. Let's move on to how you can use the properties of other assets in the dialogue component. So kind of like the reverse. In the open world RPG, you start in this demo area, and instead of starting at the main menu by default, I've just loaded up the start map and have already added the component and inputs to my character. From here, I'm dragging in the shop NPC blueprint example, and when we run this, we get the usual shopkeeper, but we don't have any gold. That's because the default state of the dialogue component doesn't add it in like the demo level. However, this asset has an inventory system which opens with the I button, and we can see that it has 500 gold. We're going to set it up so that the dialogue component utilizes the gold from this asset, and in turn, the condition system will be checking the gold using it. So a quick test, we can see that the NPC won't sell us anything because we're peasants. So the first thing I'm going to do is locate where the gold variable of this open world asset is stored. Lucky for us, the developer of this asset is very organized, and I was able to locate it within a second. It's attached to this AC money system component. Since the game starts with the player having gold, and each time we save and load it back up, we want to have that gold value stored. So we're going to search for begin play, and here it is. We're going to, on begin play, feed the gold value from the component into our dialogue component. So I can simply get the current money value, which in this case is a float. Now we'll get our dialogue component, and from here, let's think back for a second. Where is the money stored in my asset? It's used during dialogues with the condition system, and in the demo, the character has it under the player conditions dropdown, but our RPG character doesn't have that. So we can add it, but let's not. I want to teach you all something about structs and maps. So here we have our dialogue component. Let's pull out of it, and we want the player conditions. If you're new to Unreal, you might be thinking, what am I even looking at? What kind of variable is this? The player conditions is a struct, which in this case houses multiple types of condition variables all together. So instead of adding new variables that will clutter up the character's blueprint, I can have them neatly grouped. And we can access these variables in this group by right-clicking and splitting it. In this case, it's not too big, but other times breaking it like this can be massive, so you may want to drag it out and split it like this. Then you can neatly hide any of the pins you don't want to show. Just an organizational tip. Okay, so what do we want to do? Well, we want to add a map value of gold and plug in our current money value into it. Now, if we test it, we can press the T debugger input to see the amount of gold we have, and it's 500. We can confirm it works too because now we're loaded and the NPC sells us stuff. However, there is one small issue, which is that whenever we buy something, our money is decreasing in the dialogue component, but not in the money component. The reason is because we have to update the money systems component money variable whenever the transactions happen. In this case, we can see that a function change player condition amount seems to update the map value. So if we double click it, the base dialogue component blueprint opens up, and here we can see where the logic happens. So we want to make this change to our money management component, and it's actually really easy. Let's get the ref because logic is ran from the NPC and the ref is the player. Get component by class, money system, and from map, let's find gold and set the current money to this value. Now if we run this, we can pull up our inventory, and when we make purchases, we can see the gold amount change. We're almost done, but not quite. We've set it up so that the dialogue component can be changed on begin play and when talking to the shopkeeper, but not if we earn money throughout the rest of the world. If we open this chest here, our money increases, but only in the money system, not in the dialogue component. What we need to do is then find every time our money is increased and also increase the value of our dialogue component's gold. Lucky for us, again, the developer of this asset is very organized, as the money system component has a function named add money, which is called upon every time the player's gold increases. So we can simply get the player character's dialogue component and add the gold with our current money. Okay, so that's basically how you would go about integrating my dialogue component with other assets. I hope you found this helpful. If you got questions, feel free to reach out. I will see you in the next one. Bye.